Hello everybody, this is Dr. Novak again. In this video we're going to talk about this particular aquarium that you're looking at. And he contacted me. He is one of my viewers and he's from Arizona. And by the looks of this tank you would say everything's going just fine. Looks perfect. But the real thing is it's not. And that's what we're going to get into in this video. Why he's having problems and how he's going to try to correct them. And that's coming up next. There's nothing worse than to have a fish tank and having your fish die and get sick. And that's got to be the most heartbreaking moment for a lot of hobbyists that are out there. Take a look at this aquarium. This is a custom-made acrylic aquarium. You can see how thick the acrylic is. It's 400 gallons. Underneath is a 200-gallon sump. The hobbyist who reached out to me asked me if I could help him. He's from Arizona and he is having some problems with this particular aquarium. And he said about every 3 months he has to add salt to the aquarium because the fish wind up getting sick. He says they don't seem to stay healthy. And that's something I've talked about in my videos. If you remembered, I talked about a young woman who had goldfish for 10 years and she finally threw the towel in because the goldfish just kept getting sick and getting sick and getting sick and dying, and she kept buying new fish and finally she threw the towel in. Well, I guess he had enough after he said he lost a very large 8-inch oranda. And as you can see by the fish that are in his aquarium, he does not have inexpensive fish like that yellow oranda that you can see there. That's a very rare fish that you can find. If you can find a yellow goldfish, not orange, but actually yellow like that. But he says he has a place out where he lives where he could buy high quality goldfish. And the guy gets in some very nice Japanese and Chinese and Taiwanese goldfish. And he pays a good buck for them. But he's sick and tired of the fish getting sick. So he reached out to me and I said, yes, I will help him. I said, what we're going to do is take this tank, and since it's like 600 gallons, including the 200-gallon sump, so it's 400 gallons with 200-gallon sump, I said, we're going to treat it just like a pond. Why not? And he agreed. He said, we got to do something. He says, I can't keep having sick fish every 3-4 months getting sick, me putting salt in the tank, and me having to deal with this. Now, he did make a statement that he made a couple of BCB, which are biocenosis clarification baskets, and put them in his sump, and things did improve. He could tell. But he needs more help on straightening out the tank. This is one of the photos he sent me of his sump, his 200-gallon sump. I want you to look at this photo very carefully and tell me what you see wrong in this photo. And I want you to look at the other photos. Look at them very, very carefully and see if you can see anything wrong. Now look at this photo. Do you see anything wrong? I mean, probably a lot of people are looking at this picture and thinking it looks like everything's set up absolutely correctly. But there is something wrong with this photo. Very wrong. Now I want you to look at the third photo. Do you see anything wrong with this photo? Look at it very carefully. Try to think out of the box when you're looking at it. What is wrong with this particular sump? That I can see it immediately, but maybe if you're new to the hobby, you can't. For most people looking at this photo right here, nobody would think much is wrong. You would say, oh, well, his filter material looks a little dirty, you could change that. But to the trained eye, you can see definitely why his fish are getting sick and the problem he's having. And it's not the dirty filter floss that you're looking at or the pre-filter. Look at the top of his sump where he has his bubblers. Look at all that protein. Now there's two kinds of protein. In a natural system, you will have protein, and 90% of that will be plant matter protein, which is absolutely harmless. It may look bad and unsightly, but it is harmless protein. The protein that you see here in this photograph, more than likely 90% or even more of this protein, and I would say 100% of this protein, is animal protein. Animal protein causes large problems. Whenever you see large amounts of protein from a bubbler in your aquarium, like you are seeing here, you know for a fact there are lots of things happening. There are a lot of pheromones being released by his particular animals, and they're secreting a lot of proteins. Well, they're the proteins coming from their waste, or it's coming from the food he's feeding, which of course I feed high protein food. I think the food I feed is the Tetra color food, which is red, and that's rated at 47% protein. That's pretty high in protein. But that's excessive amount of protein in his aquarium. So we have to now look at this and we have to try to solve his problem. Now, what I told him to do is, first of all, he's got to take this sump, he's got to empty it and clean it out. The next thing I told him to do, since it's such a large sump, is that he needs to make some BCB baskets. Put as many as he can or as big as he can into his sump. And what he's going to do is get rid of all the other filter medium that he has in there. Now there's something about what hobbyists don't understand. If you look at the filter medium that's in this sump, as you can see by this photo, that the medium is all in bags. He's got a BCB basket which he said did help improve it. But all the medium is in bags. Now, everyone's told to do this. It makes it simpler to just put a medium in a bag and throw it in the sump. Now, if we compare this to a canister, if you had bags in your canister filter, you would have to squeeze out the bag, leave enough room for the bag, squeeze it out, so 100% of the water would have to go through the medium. But when you have a sump and you place your medium in bags, which you have to do because this is a gravity-fed system, and that's one disadvantage of a sump compared to a canister filter. Canister filters force the water through the medium, and if it's spread out and set up correctly, it will not find any voids, because we all understand that water is like electricity and takes the path of least resistance. Here you can see that the water is coming in, it's going around the bags where he has his medium, but how efficient are these bags actually working? And they're not, because you got a thing called water shear. And when people place medium in bags, and they do it because it's more convenient, it's easier to do maintenance on the aquarium, you just pull the bags out, put them under the sink. But in the same term, those bags are acting as like if you kind of look at it like a boulder and the water is going around it, yes, there is water going through it, but not to the point that it's as efficient as a canister filter, which is actually pulling the water through to make sure that all the water and the medium is being exposed continuously at, let's say you're pumping 1,000 gallons an hour at 1,000 gallons an hour. This medium sitting in the bags, of course, even though I think he said he's pumping about 2,400 gallons an hour through this aquarium, the medium is not being exposed to 2,400 gallons an hour of water because the water is just going around the medium because of the fact the bags themselves are preventing water from going through very easily. This is called resistance. And if you look at what he's got here, everybody will tell him it's great. He's doing the right thing. But in reality, he's not doing the right thing because he has to set up this way because it is a sump. It is gravity fed. If he tries to set this up in such a way that everything has to go through the medium, he knows what he's going to end up with. He's going to end up with a catch-all for dirt and everything trying to go through the medium. And once that dirt and everything starts clogging up everything and slowing it down, because this happens with ponds, the water's going to start rising in different chambers and could start overflowing. So in ponds, they have what they call an overflow valve. If this happens, the overflow tube just lets the water flow into the pond without having the filter overflow with water all over your lawn. In this case, if he did the same thing, he could end up with that problem very quickly, where if he sets it up where the flow has to go through the medium and not go around the medium, he would end up eventually with a problem, plus the fact of cleaning it. So, though many people would look at this and say he's done everything right, he's actually done everything wrong in the same term. It's kind of like a yin and a yang. You've done things right, but you've also done things very wrong because water takes the path of least resistance. Now, if you look at the photo, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you will see it looks like a basket with a white mesh on it. And that is the BCB basket he made, which is the biocenosis clarification basket. And that basket, he said after he put it in, I don't know if he put one or two in, I can't remember. He said it did improve situations. What he's going to have to do is eliminate all this medium that he has and just put baskets in. Now, his pond or his aquarium is no different, I should say, than my pond. My pond was 1,250 gallons. The pond that the koi were in 800 gallons, and the filtration system itself was 400 gallons. Okay. Yet, I had over 17 koi just in the 800 gallons of water at one time, and then throughout the end I had only 12. But some of these koi were 28 to 30 inches, all being handled in a pond, and in the filter were the goldfish. About I had at least, they were 15 to 17-year-old. I had at least 10 to 12 ranchus and other goldfish in there that lasted 15 to 17 years. The thing of it is, he needs to get rid of this because, as I just explained to you, water is not, it's just going around these baskets. It's not really doing the work at 100%. He's probably at his efficiency, maybe even as low as 20%, 25%. He's losing 75% of his efficiency just because water is just going around the baskets, and he has no choice. It's a sump. But a BCB basket, on the other hand, if he even stacks them and puts them in there, the water's going to flow around them. Now remember, BCB baskets attract ions. They're charged. And the kitty litter and laterite attract the ions out of the system. Just like your plenum does, that's what a BCB does. I'm running my 20-gallon right now off of 100% BCB basket. No bubblers, no sponge filters, no bags of anything. Everything that I'm running off of that 20-gallon is being run from a canister filter. That's it. The BCB is well broken in. It's going on 10 months old. Maybe it's even older than that, come to think about it. It could be 11 months old. But the whole entire aquarium is being run off of a canister filter, so that you don't have any sightly sponges, you don't have anything, and you only clean the canister filter whenever it's needed, which could be every 4 to 6 months. So whenever it would be needed. And I have the goldfish in there. I told him this is what we're going to do with this aquarium, because in a sump, when the water flows through your different portions of that sump, you have these baskets in there, and the water's going to flow around the baskets, no different than an anoxic filter that I had in my pond, and it will pick up the ions and everything else and do all his work. So I told him to clean out the sump, clean everything out, make yourself up the baskets, and then put the baskets in, and then get some like API starter, or you can get Fritzine starter for your aquarium. I said maybe buy 2 or 3 bottles of it, because he's got a big aquarium. I said once you make all the baskets up, pour some of that API directly on the clay, and do that for every basket. So you may need more than 1 bottle. And he said okay. And this heterotrophic bacteria, that's what's inside that bottle, heterotrophic bacteria, will start colonizing the BCB basket immediately. And it will soak in there. And then I said, once you have everything clean, you have it soaked in there, you have all your baskets, you poured in the stuff on the clay is going to soak up the liquid with the heterotrophic bacteria. Now fill your sump up, and all the baskets will be underwater. And I said, start up the system. Put as many baskets as you can. The baskets are designed to have water, go around them. BCB baskets do not have to have water go through them. This is why they never clog, but they work very, very efficiently. He's got about, I think he said 30, 33 goldfish in there. Very expensive goldfish, as you can see by the picture. So we're going to get them straightened out. I asked him, what's he using for a pre-filter? So basically all he needs is a pre-filter, which he could be using, let's say, socks. Have the water go into a sock, and then boom, go right into your anoxic filter. Okay, what else have I seen wrong with this system? And the next thing I see wrong, if you look at the photograph, look at the picture real close. Look at the left-hand right corner, and look at the right-hand corner. Now, a lot of hobbyists do this same mistake, and this is an old trick we used to do with mini reef aquariums. He's using duckbill outlets. Now, duckbill outlets are to take the water, and they make it, it's like a garden hose, right? If you put a restriction on a garden hose, it's going to squirt farther, but you're getting less water, right? If you take the restrictor off the garden hose, you will definitely get more water, but it won't be at such a high pressure. And if you look at, he's using duckbill outlets. Now, if this was me and he has these pumps in there, I would definitely change those out like I have on my 90-gallon. don't put duckbills on. Anytime you have a pump or a canister filter and you put those duckbills on it, or you put the little tubes that have holes drilled in it from Eheim and some of the other manufacturers make, anytime you do that, that is restricting the water, and you are restricting the amount of water you're going to turn over in your aquarium. So if you're trying to achieve, let's say, more water output, instead of using a duckbill outlet, get a stronger pump. Pay the money and look at a pump that maybe puts out 3,500 or 4,000 gallons an hour. That way you do not restrict the water coming out. Because anytime, and this is a big mistake a lot of hobbyists do, they restrict the water flow and they think it looks right because they wanted it to break the surface of the aquarium or whatever. You're actually restricting the amount. So he says he's pumping 2,400 gallons. I doubt if he is pumping 2,400 gallons because he's restricting his outlet with the duckbills. So there's no way he could be pumping 2,400 gallons an hour anymore. So he's not turning over that 400-gallon tank enough. He needs to move water. And once he gets those BCBs set up, he needs to move water from point A, which is his aquarium, to point B, which is going to be now his anoxic filter, which is his sump. And he needs to move water quickly so any of the ions and any of the pollution that is in that aquarium gets into the sump so it can pass by his BCB baskets, and so they can do the work they're supposed to do. It's no different than my setup that I had with my pond, and it's no different than hundreds and hundreds of other pond owners did the same thing. They made a anoxic filter and they had their pond. They moved water as quickly as they could. I think I show a picture in my book of a guy who has a pond of 12,000 gallons, and he has an anoxic filter on top of it. And I think he's flowing at least 15,000 gallons an hour through it. Okay, which is quite a lot. But the point I'm making here is the anoxic filter could take it. Because a lot of filters, let's say like your Nexus filter, for example, they have a restriction. They say don't flow any more than 3,600 gallons an hour through this filter to work correctly. On an anoxic filter, on the other hand, you don't want to restrict water flow. You want water flow to go as fast as it can. Because remember, it's like a magnet. And if you can get what's in the aquarium past the magnets, so the magnets can pick up what's in there, it works better. So I myself would change out his outlets, and if it's not enough current, then I myself would then break down and say, well, I guess I need 2 more powerful pumps. Something, maybe each pump should be pumping, 1,500 or 2,400 gallons an hour. Have 2 pumps instead of 1 pump, like they do in saltwater aquariums. A lot of saltwater aquariums in the sump area will put 2 pumps. So if you have 2 2,400 gallon an hour pumps, that equals 5,000 gallons an hour you're pumping. Plus you'll double your output. So if he can buy, let's say, 2 1,500 gallon hour pumps, he'll be pumping 3,000 gallons an hour if he uses 2. There's all kinds of ways of going about increasing your output, but using a duckbill or any restriction is definitely, you're not going to be pumping what the manufacturer claims. That's why I show in my 90 gallon, I leave the 475 gallon an hour Awaki pump. I do not restrict any of that water going into the aquarium. I'm using 7/8 hose going into the aquarium, and I don't use the duckbills or anything that came with the aquarium. I leave them open, the orifice of the two outlets. And if I need more, then I'm going to have to get a stronger pump and start increasing the diameters of my tubing. And right now I'm only using 5/8. So these are things he's got to think about. He may have to increase in his tubing diameter. He may have to increase the water flow. He's going to have to be a little innovative here on turning over his aquarium. But that's what I have suggested to him, is making his sump into a complete anoxic filter. Get rid of all the bags. Just have a sock where his water will go into the sock so he can pull the sock out, clean it. The rest of it, don't be putting any more filter floss in there. Don't be using anything like that. Let the sock or your pre-filter do its job, just like a canister filter. Canister filter is going to filter the water, and then it's going to send it back into the aquarium. That's what he wants. He wants to leave a little spot where he will do his maintenance of cleaning out the socks or whatever, and then the rest of it's going to be BCB. Now this will last him indefinitely. Once he gets it set up, he will not have to really clean this, and his pre-filter is going to determine how the turbidity of the water will be, okay? Because that is going to, depending on the microns he's using, that is going to depend on how clean and polished his water is. Let it go into the sump, go past the BCB baskets, then let it go into the chamber that's holding his pumps. And of course, most people, if they would have this like a discus tank, that's where they would have their heaters and stuff like that, in that section next to the pumps. I also told him the air stones that he is using, don't use those inside the sump. There's no reason to be using them, because you want the water from the aquarium to mix. If you are going to use an air stone, the best thing to do would be use it in the aquarium. But on the other hand, if he is using an overflow of some sort, does he really need to add more and more oxygen? Because all he has to do is test his oxygen. If it's 7 or 8 parts per million, what does he need the air stones for? Especially in the sump. It's gilding the lily, I guess you could say, putting the air stones in the sump. He's trying to raise his oxygen, I understand that. So he has more, the medium than we'll have for the bacteria. The nitrobacteria will have more oxygen. But with the way he has it set up, it's not working right. And this is what happens with some. A lot of people design them in such a way where the water is not being forced through the material they want. It's just going around the material and going back into the aquarium. It's not being as efficient as you would like. Where an anoxic filter does not need to have water push through the material. It wants water to be going all around it. And even if the basket's a little bit off the ground, so water can go underneath it, and it will track all the ions and things like that out of the water column. That's exactly what I told him to do. So I thought I would show you this. He definitely needs help. He can't be losing expensive goldfish. And let me just say this. I don't mind helping people. I got another person who watches my video that I'm also helping. He will contact me. I think he's in Washington State. The thing of it is, I've reached out, and this is no lie, to other YouTube people. I just reached out to one who had a YouTube asking people for help. Oh, I got this bad aquarium. It's going bad. Look how bad it is. I don't know what to do. People, give me a suggestion of what I can do and how to straighten up my aquarium. This was his video. And I wrote him, and I said, look, why don't you use an anoxic filter? Try something different. I'll help you. And you can do it on your YouTube channel. His reply was, no thanks. That was it. Same thing as the woman who had the goldfish for 10 years. I wrote her and said, look, I'll be more than happy to help you. You can have it on your YouTube channel. She had a big swimming pool with her gold. I said, be more than happy to help you. No thanks. Now, I don't understand. I reached out to him and said, I'll be more than happy to help you. You put it on your channel. We'll work together. I'll tell you what to do. You know, both YouTube channels said, no thanks. So for the woman, that no thanks ended her channel as far as her goldfish. After 10 years, she threw the towel in. You know, I don't understand why people become so adamant of why they won't try something different. They think they're going to keep doing the same thing and coming up with different results. And with goldfish, you can't play around. They're expensive animals, and you need to take evasive action immediately, no matter what it costs. And as you see on my channel, I show you a lot of pictures of aquariums with discus. Discus are one of those animals, and you could pay $250, $350 per fish. You can have 2 fish in your tank. You can have $500 worth of fish, and you can't play games. Game time is over. If you're going to take the responsibility for these animals and you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again and think you're going to have different results, well, you know, as they say, you're just crazy. So I have reached out to people to help them. I get the no thanks. But here are some people who are asking me for my help. All I can do is just tell them what I would do if this was me and it was my tank and I had such beautiful goldfish. This is what I would do. I would treat this tank like a 400-gallon pond. And it doesn't matter whether he puts a substrate in it or not, because after all, ponds don't have substrate. At least your high-end koi ponds do not have substrate in them. They don't put rocks and boulders and things like that in high-end koi ponds. They're usually bare-bottom ponds. Well, he's got a bare-bottom tank. He'd like to keep it that way because it's a very deep tank and would be hard to maintain because of the depth. This is a customized tank. Because of the depth, it'd be hard to maintain. I said, no problem. Just make a complete 100% anoxic filter. And you're going to treat it like a pond. You should see your fish come around. You'll see less protein. Just like in my pond, I had bubblers. We had very strong aerators, extremely strong aerators. I never had foam all over my pond because that would be protein. And I had all those goldfish plus 17 koi, as much as 30 inches. Never saw any foam. So I'm going to help him out. We'll see what he does. If he listens, if he decides to do it, not do it, that's entirely up to him. And we'll see how far he gets along. If he does what I say, you know, I'll post pictures to let you know his progress on his aquarium, because even though he has 400 gallons of water, he has some awful big fish. Now, in China, when they have like parks in China, and they have huge goldfish aquariums. Huge. You know, I'm talking like 6 foot in diameter, and they're just full of goldfish, healthy, beautiful goldfish in China. And when I saw this tank, I thought, wow, this reminded me of China. You know, they're huge goldfish tanks that they have in their parks. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I just want to let everybody know that I do try to help people. Sometimes I reach out to people to help them, and they just say no thanks. And other people have told me, one guy made a mention that he went and told somebody about this who has another YouTube or whatever. He knew all about it. And you know what he told him? And I couldn't believe he even said this. Well, that's too much work. It's like, what? Wait a second. You mean throwing your substrate directly on the bottom is a lot less work than, let's say, making a plenum? That's too much work? I mean, how would we feel if a car manufacturer did that and said, you know what, it's too much work for us to put all that time and money into your car? How long would you own that car if it kept breaking down and you had to keep fixing it? How would you ever buy that manufacturer's product again? You know, if you put the time in, you're going to be rewarded in the end. Just like with my 90-gallon, just like with the breeder aquarium I show you. Put a little bit of time in, and you're going to be rewarded in the end without sick fish and without all kinds of problems. So to me, it's worth putting the time in than just taking a bag and throwing it in at the bottom of the aquarium. Yeah, I'll admit it's easy. By the way, my next video is going to be on the 20-gallon, and you're going to be quite surprised what I found out after removing the sand I put in there that I threw directly on the bottom of that aquarium. You're going to be quite surprised with that video. But anyhow, that's it for this video. I thought for those who may be working on their tanks within the next few weeks, changing tanks over, you could see the advice I gave this individual. And until next time, thank you for watching. This is Dr. Novak, and happy fish keeping.